So you've got a bunch of indoor plants, but the question is, how do you display them? Well, the big guys like this are pretty easy. You put them in a nice pot and you're good to go. But how about these small guys? How do you show them off in an eye-catching display? Well, I'll show you how. I'm talking a plant stand, but not just any plant stand. This one's going to grab your attention and be just as much of a hero as the plants themselves. In fact, it's inspired by the cactus, and I'm making it out of this stuff, copper pipe. I've started with this 6-metre length of copper. It's only about $30, and I've cut it down into 1.5-metre lengths. So there's 4 of them, and I'm going to bend them to shape. But before we do that, I'm going to fill them with some sand. Now I'm going to be bending this pipe with a pipe bender. They're only about $40. Look a little bit like this from Bunnings. And the reason I filled the pipe with sand is so when you do bend it, it doesn't kink and wrinkle. Because it's filled with sand, the copper's got nowhere to go, so you get a nice, smooth finish. But before I start any of that, I need to draw out my shape to make sure I get it right. Yeah, you can see I'm doing a one-armed cactus. Let's hope I'm a better bender than I am a drawer. Anyway, I'm going to be doing this bottom curve first, so I need to mark out my pipe. There's a couple of tips when you're using a pipe bender. They look a lot more confusing than they are. Ooh, yep, goes that way. So, the first tip is the mark that you've made needs to go in on the 0 mark on the pipe bender. Then every bend you do from then on, the beginning of the curve has to go to the 0. That means it's going to stay nice and true, just like that. I also have a spacer. Now, I've got an cut of copper, but you could use a piece of timber. That slots in there and stops this part of the pipe deforming and getting out of shape, which means our stand is going to stay nice and straight. Perfect. Right, as you can see, it's a little bit wobbly, so just a little bit of finessing by flattening it out on the bench. That's going to give us the perfect finish. Yeah, that's starting to look really nice, and you can see the curves are really smooth and there's no kinks in them, and that's thanks to the sand. Well, I'm definitely a better bender than I am a drawer. That's looking good. We're on to this top curve, though. Now, the pipe bender makes the curves too tight, so I'm going to use something else. And this is what I'm using. It's just a simple garden pot. You do need something quite sturdy. I'm just going to push it over the edge to form our shape. To make your plant stand, you're going to need 2 of these parts and 2 of the ones we made before. And before you start cutting, you need to take the tape off and get the sand out. The next stage is to get the 2 arms together of our shelf. So you lay it all out like this, and I'm just going to mark where the overhangs are, and I can cut through and we'll put a join there. And whilst I'm at it, I'll also mark out where the other shelves are going to go and make those cuts too. I'm just using a pipe cutter to give me a nice clean cut, but if you don't have one of these, you could use a hacksaw as well. We can start putting our plant stand together, and it starts with this. This is a piece of recycled timber that I've sanded and pre-drilled, and that's going to make our base that the bits of copper can sit in. To join the copper, I'm just using our offcuts and these simple T-pieces that cost $1.30. It's really important to do a dry run before you glue any of these joins. That way you can make sure everything's nice and smooth and spend a bit of time getting it just right, because once it's glued, that's it, it's done. Once you're happy with it, I think that looks pretty good, we're going to take it apart and glue all the joins. And I'm using a 2-part epoxy that sticks metal. Now, this has got a 5-minute working time, so it should give me enough time to get it all back together again. Well, what is a plant stand without shelves? I've taken this old hardwood fence paling, given it a bit of a sand and put some holes in it. They'll simply rest in our new stand and I'll tie them on with some copper wire. And there you have it, one plant stand. It's just missing a bit of greenery now. Of course, you could put any plants you want on this plant stand, but what better for a cactus plant stand than cactus plants? So for under 60 bucks in materials and a couple hours work, you can get yourself a pretty fancy way to display your plants.